All right. So the good thing about Aegis VMAX was that on his V, he can knock out mill tanks with his Sonic Edge attack because it's not affected by any effects on your opponent's active. But for a 2 prize, that's kind of um, a liability in my opinion, because if you're playing single prize deck, some single prizes really do a lot of damage, and with only 210 HP, um, for the amount of effort it takes for you to put energies on him just to use that attack. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of effort if you got an Arceus deck like this, because Arceus can put energies on people pretty fast, but um, I just thought that because of the usefulness of Zamazenta being able to discard the hand if you have a bad hand, draw 5, and he pretty much does the same thing as the V Star or the V Max for Aegislash, where instead of 30 damage for each prize you take, and he's instantly already has 160. That's a pretty big um, bonus of why he's good, because let's just say you fight like a Moltres V, and a Moltres, he does 30 damage to himself, so 220, 210, 200, 190, right? So let's say you already took a prize and he gets charged up. That's an instant KO already. 2 prizes right there. But let's see, this Zamazenta, he only gets 120, but he still gets at least 30 more damage for each prize. So you go from 120 to 150 to 180. And because a lot of people love to play Ice Rider Calyrex, which is a very um like popular card for sure. Um I just put him in the deck for this card because this card is really a good counter to my deck, because it can one shot Arceus if it has a choice belt or choice band or whatever that thing's called, because it does 250 damage for only 2 energies, and it gets rid of the energies, which is not good for me because Espeon won't be able to do nothing to that. Pikachu could 2-shot it, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But, why am I trying to 2-shot a 3 prize Pokemon, which can basically almost 1-shot anything? It can't really 1-shot a Pikachu, but it'll do so much damage. And Ice Riders love to play the Inteleon line of cards, which would quick shoot almost everything that they can at any given time, every turn. So that's 20 damage per Espeon on the bench. That's just putting damage counters or whatever all over. So let's just say Ice Rider hit my Pikachu VMAX for 250 or 280 if I have a choice belt. Then in the next turn or the same turn, they could, or even before the turn started, their Espeons could already be putting damage counters everywhere. So that's why I don't really like, unless I'm playing against Ice Rider mixed with like a Palkia V-Star deck or something like that. Then I'll put Pikachu in there, because Pikachu is good at one-shotting the Palkia deck, which charges up Ice Rider sometimes. And then you got the Greninja V, or the Greninja, Radiant Greninja, who discards the energies, and Palkia is able to use that to the advantage to charge up with his ability, or his ability, the V-Star power, to attach up to 3 energies from the discards and all that. So anyway, that's a good counter to have Pikachu versus the combo of this and the Ice Rider decks. But I just was saying that to say that this Zamazenta is just good for any cards that are weak to ice, except for that new Vulpix that just came out not too long ago. Because the Vulpix V-Star can't be hurt by Pokemon with an ability. And that was the main reason why the Aegislash was so good, because once this Pokemon uses the attack, it's isn't the this attack's damage isn't affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon, which is pretty good, because if you have a Duraludon or something that, or maybe even, let's see, yeah, if you had a Duraludon and Duraludon doesn't allow Pokemon that have special energies attached to hurt it, this would go through that. This probably can go through Miltank, because if it isn't affected by any effects, it'll go through a Miltank, it'll go through a few different types of Pokemon. So this is actually a pretty good attack. But the HP is terrible. I just can't get it. I can't. 240. Nah, I couldn't do it. That's just easily shoot. Aegislash V alone would kill that in one shot. Look at this. 240. If you just put the 3 energies on there, 2 metals, 1 whatever, automatic knockout. Not to mention, you put the VMAX in play, that's an automatic knockout, and it has no abilities. So that attack that Vulpix does doesn't even affect it at all. So that's why I never tried this card, because I could counter this card in so many different ways. Not to mention, it says prevent during your next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from Pokemon that have an ability. If you have a boss, that ability goes away. If you have an escape rope, that goes away. Serena, that ability goes away. But even if you didn't, let's say, what Pokemon would be a good counter? Man. Actually, every Pokemon that I have, that wouldn't do a lot. 160, that's not a lot. Pikachu, 160. There's no counter necessarily to this Pokemon, except for Duraludon, because he can go through whatever. But if he had a choice belt, he would be able to one-shot that. But I don't play choice belt, because choice belt is getting ready to be taken out of the format pretty soon. So I'm trying to learn how to play without playing that. But yeah, a lot of my cards have abilities. Zapdos. This is a good Arceus counter. This is actually a good Eternatus counter, because a lot of people love to play Eternatus VMAX. And they play a lot of Vs on the bench. So I love to have Zapdos, because you just put 1 energy and it's a wrap. But yeah, that's actually really, I don't really see a lot of people play Vulpix. So even if they played it, I would have a counter with just Duraludon, really. But other than that, I guess if I played just regular Arceus and just charged up 1 of these on the bench, he could 2-shot it. Or I could just soften it up with something else, like a Duraludon. And let's say Duraludon gets knocked out, then just come up with 1 of these, because it doesn't have an ability. Or maybe even this or something. I don't know. I never really had to deal with it. And they're not common. They're uncommon, so it doesn't even matter. So the deck I have the most problem playing against so far is probably Lost Box and Lugia, because Lugia can get set up so fast. I can counter Blissey decks, even though Blissey plays sometimes Dunsparce. You just use Espeon. Espeon will one-shot Blissey's, but Blissey's somehow They get lucky sometimes because if they Marnie you or something, you get bad hand, they could set up pretty fast and they can do a lot of work. But depending on if they play Path to the Peak or not, that can kind of throw a monkey wrench in the game because then you won't be able to use these to get any supporter you need. And it just becomes annoying because they can heal. But I don't know. You just got to get lucky sometimes because yeah, sometimes this game loves to give you terrible hands, which I will probably be able to showcase when I play today. But anyway, I'm going to just showcase this deck because it's better to see it in action than just to look at it and be like, well, why does this guy have all these different things? How do these work? But in this current meta, a lot of Pokemon love to play special energies with the Lugia. So if they don't play Path to the Peak, they can't hit this card. Pikachu one-shots it. Espeon can one-shot him. And then I just keep Greninja because even though I don't even really need it to face the fire decks, there's always those decks that play one prize Pokemon that takes so long to kill each Pokemon one at a time. So if you happen to be able to get Greninja and play early on, and you charge them up and they don't play a Manaphy in the deck, then Greninja can just wipe out almost their entire bench if they have enough Pokemon that only have 100 HP or less. But even if not, he could soften up the bench to give everybody at least 100 damage counters. So if you play Crobat or Luminion or any two prize Pokemon that doesn't have 200 HP or more, then all you got to do is just hit the Twisted Shuriken twice and you'll have a lot of prize cards in one turn to kind of help contribute to getting you the W quicker. So some Pokemon or some people like to play Rapid Strike Urshifu. That's where Espeon comes in because this is a counter to fighting types. My counter to ground types is definitely Shaman. Shaman is just great for almost every kind of opponent late game. Like if you get into the late and you need a lot of prizes at once, easy to charge up and does so much damage, it's not even funny. But he just has low HP. But hey, for 2 energies, he's worth it. But I don't even often have to use this card. He just comes in handy whenever you really want to do a lot of damage. But I barely ever have to use him unless I'm playing against dark decks, which have been kind of I've been seeing a few dark decks lately. I've seen a lot of Darkrai. I've seen Moltres. And then I've seen some people play that Hisuian Samurai. And so Shaman is a counter to those because if you don't have a grass type, it's going to be difficult to kind of compete because they can charge up so fast with all those energies and the dark patches and all of that. So Pikachu wouldn't, V-Stars that don't do a lot of damage aren't going to be able to compete with, especially Espeon. I wouldn't even put that on the bench. Then Umbreon wouldn't really be able to do much because they can one-shot. Also, there's another deck that I've been struggling with. That is the Hisuian Zoroark. That deck is just they set up really fast and do a lot of damage. So I would say it's whoever really gets the best hand in that deck, because it's a toss-up. You only get 2 prizes per But if you play Duraludon and they don't have like a Path to the Peak, then that could counter it because they love to play Special Energy. So that could be one good counter, but you never know. Sometimes they might play Path, but I've never really noticed them playing Path. But even if they don't, they could just use regular energies in their deck somewhere and set up like that, and then you wouldn't have anything to counter. So Zapdos isn't really great because it's easy to get knocked out really quickly. You might get one KO, but then they'll come back and retaliate and KO. So you kind of would hope that maybe Greninja can get in to play early, and then you can soften up the bench and maybe wipe out a few of his Pokemon as well, so that you won't have to go take as many prizes. And that leads me to my trainers. I play 2 Adventure Discovery, 1 Boss, 2 Marnies, a Bird Keeper, 2 Quick Balls, 4 Ultra Balls, a Rhyhorn, Peony, 2 Switches, 1 Palpad, a Claire, 2 Training Cord, and Air Balloon. But I used to play a whole different looking deck, and when I got on this app, it just was not working. It was working way better when I was playing PTCGO, but for whatever reason, just the hands I was drawing just were terrible. And I was like, because I used to play a Curlia line, which was actually not bad. I had the routes, and then I was playing routes, and then I played the Curlia that draws 2 per turn to help me get rid of some of those Greninja V unions, and then I would play 1 Gallade, because this will get you any supporter every turn. So his ability to draw any supporter at any time, every single turn, whatever supporter that you needed, was pretty good. And also he does a lot of damage if you can get him to attack. So if you're playing a deck that you can't hurt because your Vs aren't able to hit something, then I always like having this one because he has a pretty good amount of HP. He can one-shot a Urshifu VMAX. But anyways, I like that deck because if you have a set of 2 Curlias, that's draw support every single turn. 2 cards, actually like 4 cards if you can get them set up every turn. But for some reason, I was never able to really draw into them quick enough. And by the time I was able to kind of get it going, I would already be losing. Like, it would seem like every opponent I played, they would get all the cards they needed early, like the first 2 turns. And by the time they were ready, or I was ready to get set up, they were already done. So I just was like, I was tired of teams or opponents setting up on me so fast, because I only played 2 Arceuses at a time. And I think that that's really all I needed, because when I tried to play 4, I still didn't draw into them. I would play 4 Arceus, still not draw into them. And so that started to become annoying. So I'm like, okay, well, if I play 4 Arceuses and on a regular basis I'm still drawing into like Umbreon, or I'm drawing into like even Luminion sometimes, which would suck. That's why I put 2 in the deck, because sometimes if you draw into that and there's no Arceus, then on the next turn you can't even use this to get like Adventure Discovery because it's already on the board. So that's the exact reason why I put 2. And then I only used to play 3 Ultra Balls, but now I play 4 and 2 Quick Balls. So let's just say in my first hand, I don't draw into any Arceus, which is basically my main go-to card in this deck. I'll at least be able to possibly draw into an Ultra Ball or a Quick Ball. And if I don't do that, then I have 2 Adventurous Discoveries. And if I don't do that, then I have 2 Marnies. And if I can't do that, then I have a Bird Keeper or whatever. So I'll have to just try to make whatever kind of effort to get that Arceus as soon as possible. Once I finally get the Arceus in play, then hopefully, if I have to use a Quick Ball, if it's my first hand, then hopefully an Adventure Discovery is in my hand. If not, hopefully another ball, some kind of a ball, because then I'll just use my Lumineon on my next turn to go get an Adventure Discovery. I don't even have to explain this to you guys. I'm going to just play some games, and then you'll see how easily this deck works against almost every type of deck. Hopefully, because I don't know what kind of draws I'm going to get. But this is the amount of energies. I play 2 double turbos, 1 of almost every, and then 2 metals and 2 water, and that's it. So, I'm going to put this deck into action and let you guys look at it firsthand. So I'll see you guys on the next video.